Nā koutou katoa ngā mihi nui kia koutou e hui hui nei tēnei pō. You probably will have observed already that obviously, like Chloe, I'm here representing the youth demographic. My work relates primarily to the Treaty of Waitangi, and so when I'm thinking about governance issues, I'm always interested in thinking about what the treaty might have to say that could assist. And in the context of the things we're talking about this evening, that got me to thinking about Māori participation in environmental management and addressing climate change, and also in the broader question of mechanisms for kind of good public policy decision making. And so I think the first point that I want to make is that the Treaty of Waitangi does point us towards models of partnership, of co-design, of co-determination actually, and thinking about Māori-led solutions and responses. And at one level it's about that self-determination, it's about sovereignty of iwi and hapu to enable practices of kaitiakitanga, and we've already heard mention tonight of te urawera. And so we can see in settlements like Tūhoe settlement in relation to te urawera, that provides a mechanism for reframing the way in which those questions of environmental management are dealt with. And if you look at the way in which Tūhoe, the Te Uruwera Board, I should say, which has of course representations appointed by both Tūhoe and the Crown on it, that they have produced a kind of management plan document, Te Kawa o Te Uruwera, which shifts the focus away from thinking about people and in fact to thinking about what is indeed in the best interest of Te Uruwera itself as an entity. And so I think in a broader sense, one of the things that the treaty would remind us of is to think about how we provide for much greater Māori participation in climate policy and environmental management, and that might be, for instance, in things like the Climate Change Commission but a whole range of other policies and plans. And this isn't just about thinking about a kind of romanticised idea of what tikanga Māori is, that Māori necessarily have all the answers, although we do. But it's actually about getting to a new paradigm. It's about drawing on a different set of tools. And my son always tells me that most of the things that are attributed to Albert Einstein he didn't really say, but one of the things that he purportedly said was that no problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. And so when we're thinking about how to embed tikanga-based solutions, how to think about kaitiakitanga, what we're trying to do is to shift the paradigm and deal with the problems that have been created with a different set of tools than those that created them in the first place. Now, there are a couple of other points that I wanted to make in terms of thinking about the Treaty of Waitangi as something which talks about good decision-making in public policy, and particularly when we think of it in a public law context. And so these things aren't particularly related to Māori, but are about focusing on what has happened in our decision-making. And Chloe's mentioned a couple of aspects of the way in which our institutions work, which are not conducive to actually good long-term decision-making and addressing issues like climate change, as have others who have spoken this evening. But one of the things which I think has tainted the decision-making around having healthy public policy in this area is the undue influence of the fossil fuel industry, which we have seen has used exactly the same playbook as the tobacco industry in terms of sowing doubt and using every means available to block or delay action. And so I think one of the things we need to think about is how we remove that influence from our public policy making. Because I think what the climate science tells us, of course, is that the fossil fuel industry is, we're in a position where it's either them or the planet. And we need to make sure that it's the planet. We need to undertake a cultural change which removes their social license actually to operate and to influence decision making. I'm not sure what the mechanisms are for doing that. I think it's probably a long-term kind of cultural change, but it's something that I think has had a detrimental impact on decision making in this space and continues to do so. The other aspect that I think we need to address in terms of thinking about addressing climate change is that all our law and policy making needs to be pro-climate. We need to institute mechanisms which are ensuring that every single thing we do is directed at addressing this issue, because otherwise we will continue on a path where we won't get to the point where we need to be, and we end up actually just perpetuating a situation that leaves out all those other aspects of good decision making that we had talked about. So in terms of thinking about how we do that, I think it's useful to think about how we might beef up some of the mechanisms that are already or that are proposed in the zero carbon bill. So those are just a few things that I think are going to be really important for us to think about and address if we're going to make any meaningful progress on this issue. And it very much is about trying to shift that paradigm to draw on a different set of tools and change our governance institutions and way of approaching these issues and way of dealing with them. So that's all from me, and I'll hand it on to Dame Claudia Orange.